Hello everyone! This is going to be the last of the Codex reading, although there was really only one other one beforehand. And this is basically right near the end of the game. Decided to get to that point since I figured there wouldn't be any more Codex entries after this. And hopefully this will be just about everything, at least short of anything that I actually missed. I figure that the game will not be giving any more at this point. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive right in. Non-sapient creatures, we've got some new ones, and we've already read husks.
Thresher maws are subterranean carnivores that spend their entire lives eating, or searching for something to eat. Threshers reproduce via spores that can lie dormant for millennia, yet are robust enough to survive prolonged periods in deep space and atmospheric re-entry. As a result, thresher spores appear on many worlds, spread by previous generations of space travelers. The body of a thresher never entirely leaves the ground. Only the head and tentacles erupt from the earth to attack. In addition to physical attacks, threshers have the ability to project toxic chemicals and emit bursts of infrasound as a shockwave weapon.
I'm not sure what that weapon was.
The Alliance first encountered threshers on the colony of Akuz in 2177. After contact was lost with the Pioneer team, Marine units were deployed to investigate. The shore parties were set upon by hungry threshers, and nearly the entire assault force was killed. Alliance forces recommend engaging threshers with vehicle-mounted heavy weapons.
But you get more experience for killing them on foot. It's terrible to not do that.
Varan are omnivores, with a preference for living prey. Originally native to the Krogan homeworld of Tuchanka, they are, like most life from Tuchanka, savage, clannish, and consummate survivors. They are pack hunters when vulnerable prey is readily available, and become scavengers when outnumbered or outclassed. Their supreme adaptability, vicious demeanor, and rapid breeding cycle have made them ubiquitous and dangerous pests on many worlds. Virtually everywhere the Krogan have been, Varan infestations have followed, wreaking havoc with the native ecology. The Krogan have had a love-hate relationship with Varan for millennia, alternately fighting them for territory and embracing them as treasured companions. To this day, Krogan raise them as beasts of war. One of the common subgenus of Varan has metallic silver scales, leading to the rather unusual nickname, fish dogs.
I like the explanation for how Thresher Maws and Varan are everywhere. You know, obviously so that they didn't have to program in multiple different creatures.
The homeworld and capital of humanity is entering a new golden age. The resource wealth of a dozen settled colonies and 100 industrial outposts flows back to Earth, fueling great works of industry, commerce, and art. The great cities are greening, as arcology skyscrapers and telecommuting allow more efficient use of land. Earth is still divided among nation-states, though all are affiliated beneath the overarching banner of the Systems Alliance. While every human enjoys a longer and better life than ever, the gap between rich and poor widens daily. Advanced nations have eliminated most genetic disease and pollution. Less fortunate regions have not progressed beyond 20th century technology, and are often smog-choked, overpopulated slums. Sea levels have risen 2 meters in the last 200 years, and violent weather is common due to environmental damage inflicted during the late 21st century. The past few decades, however, have seen significant improvement due to recent technological advances.
Yeah, give us here in the 21st century, the early 21st century, some hope, and then dash it by when we realize that that's still hundreds of years away. Good times. I'm not so sure about this. You know, less fortunate regions have not progressed beyond 20th century technology, in part because, I mean, yeah, there's certain elements that are going to be, you know, that might be low tech. But there are other elements that are going to be pretty advanced, too. I mean, you can look at some of the poorest regions of Africa where People are still living in houses made of mud and thatch, and yet everyone has a smartphone. You know, not to say that they're, you know, wasting their money on those things when they should be spending them on other things, but it just more shows you what elements of technology will essentially trickle down into the poorest regions because of how vital they are. I mean, it's just one of those things that always impressed me when I started thinking about it.
Pharos is a
Alright, we read
habitable world
Pharos.
like the ancient human city of Troy. Ilos is a world known only through second-hand sources. References to Ilos have been found at several other Prothean ruins, though direct study of the world is unlikely to occur. Ilos lies in a remote area of the Terminus systems, only accessible by the legendary Mu Relay. 4,000 years ago, the Mu Relay was knocked out of position by a supernova and lost. Since then, Ilos and its cluster have been inaccessible. Occasionally, a university will organize an expedition to chart a route to Ilos using conventional FTL drive. These never get beyond the planning stages due to the distance and danger. The journey could take years or decades, passing through the hostile Terminus systems and dozens of unexplored systems.
And yet we were able to find it.
Vermeer is a lush world located on the frontier of the Attican Traverse. Its vast seas and orbital position on the inner life zone have created a wide equatorial band of humid, tropical terrain. Only the political instability of the region has impeded efforts at colonization. Many times the Citadel has opened negotiations to settle Vermeer with various criminal gangs and petty dictatorships in the nearby Terminus systems. All fell apart due to internal power shifts within the opposing parties. The Citadel has written off the colonization of Vermeer as impossible without significant political change. The Terminus powers themselves are unlikely to ever settle Vermeer. Most lack the resources to support settlement of a virgin world, finding it more expedient to steal from their neighbors than build for themselves.
I find the whole political instability of the Terminus systems very, very weird. That whole vast star systems could be that politically unstable. It just strikes me that with that much instability, there wouldn't be enough colonization and shipbuilding and stuff like that. I don't know. Just seems weird to me.
Faster than light drives
Read that one.
using Sovereign is the flagship of the rogue Spectre's Sarin. An enormous dreadnought larger than any other ship in any known fleet, it is crewed with both Geth and Krogan. At 2 kilometers long, its spinal-mounted main gun is likely capable of penetrating another dreadnought's kinetic barriers with a single shot. How Sarin acquired this incredible warship is unknown. The prevailing opinion is that Sovereign is a Geth construct, while others believe it is a Prothean relic. Its design, however, hints at a more alien and mysterious origin.
Oh, come on, it's
The
a cuddle
attack on
command.
Eden Prime demonstrated Sovereign's ability to generate mass effect fields powerful enough to land on a planetary surface. This implies it has a massive Element Zero core and the ability to generate staggering amounts of power.
It didn't really seem that much larger than the other big ships at the end of the game, but I don't know. I mean, I could be, you know, could have had some trouble, you know, actually comparing the sizes, and it's not like they have had an actual, you know, comparison list chart or something between various ships and dreadnoughts and stuff like that. So,
Ship mobility dominates space combat. The primary objective is to align the mass accelerator along the bow with the opposing vessel's broadside. Battles typically play out as artillery duels, fought at ranges measured in thousands of kilometers, though assaults through defended mass relays often occur at knife fight ranges, as close as a few dozen kilometers. Most ship-to-ship engagements are skirmishes between patrol vessels of cruiser weight and below, with dreadnoughts and carriers only deployed in full-scale fleet actions. Battles in open space are short and often inconclusive, as the weaker opponent typically disengages. Once a ship enters FTL flight, the combat is effectively over. There are no sensors capable of tracking them, or weapons capable of damaging them. The only way to guarantee an enemy will stand and fight is to attack a location they have a vested interest in, such as a settled world or a strategically important mass relay.
Oh, no fighter battles like in Babylon 5.
Combat hard suits use a dual-layer system to protect the wearer. The inner layer consists of fabric armor with kinetic
I think we've
padding.
read that one.
A mass accelerator propels a solid metal slug using precisely controlled electromagnetic attraction and repulsion. The slug is designed to squash or shatter on impact, increasing the energy it transfers to the target. If this were not the case, it would simply punch a hole right through, doing minimal damage. Accelerator design was revolutionized by Element Zero. A slug lightened by a mass effect field can be accelerated to greater speeds, permitting projectile velocities that were previously unattainable. If accelerated to a high enough velocity, a simple paint chip can impact with the same destructive force as a nuclear weapon. However, mass accelerators produce recoil equal to their impact energy. This is mitigated somewhat by the mass effect fields that rounds are suspended within. But weapon recoil is still the prime limiting factor on slug velocity.
I'm not sure, but I think that this simple paint chip thing might be a reference to a non-accident, a minor incident that happened with one of the space shuttles. They got a microscopic paint chip impacted on the windshield, and they got a electron microscope picture of it or something like that. And it looked really interesting. It didn't actually damage the ship in any major way, although that kind of thing could damage the protective tiles on the underside. Alright, let's go over to the secondary stuff. There is a lot here. Let's see, update, bring down the sky. Technology translation. Human cultures remain linguistically divided. Some converse in Spanish, others in Mandarin, Arabic, Swahili, etc. Every alien race has their own equally broad panoply of languages and dialects. Most individuals know only their mother tongue, and rely on machine translation. Modern portable computers allow anyone with a few hundred credits of equipment to enjoy seamless real-time translation of alien languages, courtesy of handheld PDAs, computers in clothing or jewelry, or subdermal implants. Without fast and accurate translation, galactic trade and culture could not exist. Governments provide subsidized software updated through the public extranet on the fly, often as users approach spaceport customs facilities. Even the Batarians, who isolated themselves from galactic society nearly 2 decades ago, take pains to provide up-to-date glossaries and linguistic rules, though most suspect this is only so they can continue exporting propaganda. It is still considered broad-minded and practical to be able to speak without machine aid. Children often take courses in alien language, and most races can speak the simplified artificial trade tongue with little difficulty. Some species must rely on machine translation to interact with the rest of the galaxy. Hanar, for example, cannot reproduce the spoken language of any humanoid species, and other races cannot reproduce Hanar bioluminescence without mechanical aid. Newly discovered or obscure races don't have machine translation available until the linguists have had time to study them. So, with the Hanar, I can understand, that there can be software that will translate their bioluminescence into speech for them, into other races' speech. How does machine translation turn other languages into bioluminescence for Hanar? I'm not sure that ever has been answered. Pinnacle Station. Technology Combat Simulator. In the absence of realistic terrain or equipment, military organizations will often make use of a combat simulator as a method of training soldiers for varied combat environments. Holographic projectors are used to create visual representations of opponents and obstacles. Kinetic barriers are then cast to prevent participants from passing through the obstacles and terrain. Kinetic barriers are also used to simulate weapon damage and shockwaves. However, while most trainers argue that pain is the best teacher, all government-sponsored combat simulators are required to make use of extensive safety protocols to prevent any serious permanent damage to participants. Interesting about that kinetic barriers thing. I mean, would they then literally be as strong enough to hold you up? Which it seems to be the case, in which case, why not do a lot more with kinetic barriers? Why, why have walls, non-load-bearing walls in your house if you can just put up kinetic barriers and have holographic projectors, and then you could easily move around the walls? Oh god. That's probably how they do cubicle farms in the future. Ugh. Pinnacle Station is a Turian space station that has been retrofitted as a military training facility by the Council. Invitees participate in a series of simulated combat encounters and compete against other participants, with the best view in the entire game series. Standing by that. Standing by that. I think it's better than what the Elusive Man has in the next game. Prefabricated structures. When colonizing a planet, corporations will often make use of prefabricated or prefab structures to quickly and easily deploy a base of operations. In addition, it makes making these games much easier. These residential structures feature full living quarters and a large solarium from which residents may observe the planet's surface. While most human colonies have the support of the Alliance military or some corporate-sponsored defense contractor, many civilian colonists choose to keep a small stock of armaments in their home, which is why you can continually find such things when you're going through various colonies. These weapons are a last resort, but are often critical to staving off a pirate attack until support arrives. Aliens Council races. Oh, wow, that is a lot more than I expected. Asari have a robust cellular regenerative system. While they do not heal faster than other species, Asari are known to reach 1,000 years of age. Although Asari have one gender, they are not asexual, and Asari provides 2 copies of her own genes to her offspring. The second set is altered in a unique process called melding. During melding, an Asari consciously attunes her nervous system to her partner's, sending and receiving electrical impulses directly through the skin. The partner can be another Asari or an alien of either gender. Effectively, the Asari and her partner briefly become one unified nervous system. This unique means of reproduction is the reason Asari are talented biotics. Their evolved ability to consciously control nerve impulses is very similar to biotic training. Asari believe that their offspring acquire the best qualities of the father from the melded genes, but evidence is anecdotal. Asari pass through 3 climacteric. I don't know that I've ever heard that version of that word. Life stage is marked by biochemical and physiological changes. The maiden stage begins at birth and is marked by the drive to explore and experience. Most young Asari are curious and restless. The matron stage of life begins around the age of 350, though it can be triggered earlier if the individual melds frequently. This period is marked by a desire to settle in one area and raise children. The matriarch stage begins around 700, or earlier if the individual melds rarely. Matriarchs become active in their community as sages and counselors, dispensing wisdom from centuries of experience. While each stage of life is marked by strong biological tendencies, individuals do make unexpected life choices. For example, there are maidens who stay close to home rather than explore, matrons who would rather work than build a family, and matriarchs who have no interest in community affairs. I noticed that they didn't mention whether Asari are mammals or not, or mammalian, mammal-like. Since technically they couldn't be mammals, you couldn't have reptiles, fish, birds, anything else like that. It would just be mammal-like, bird-like, fish-like, etc., etc., etc. Because of their long lifespan, Asari tend to have a long view, not common to other races. When they encounter a new species or situation, the Asari are more comfortable with an extended period of passive observation and study than immediate action. They are unfazed that some of their investments or decisions may not pay off for decades or centuries. Matriarchs can seem to take incomprehensible decisions, but their insight is evident when their carefully laid plans come to fruition. In interstellar relations, this long view manifests in an unspoken policy of centrism. The Asari instinctively seek to maintain stable balances of economic, political, and military power. Traditionally, Asari spread their influence through cultural domination and intellectual superiority. They invite new species of advanced development to join the galactic community, knowing that their ideals and beliefs will inevitably influence the existing culture. Asari government. The Asari came late to the concept of world government. For centuries, their homeworld of Thessia was dotted with loose confederacies of great republican cities. The closest earthly equivalent would be the ancient Mediterranean city-states. Since the Asari culture values consensus and accommodation, there was little impetus to form larger principalities. Rather than hoard resources, the Asari bartered freely. Rather than attack one another over different philosophies, they sought to understand one another. That is nothing like the ancient Mediterranean city-states. And of course, the ancient Mediterranean city-states are really only a couple cultures. Only in the information age did the city-states grow close. Communication over internet evolved into an electronic democracy. Asari have no politicians or elections, but a freewheeling, all-inclusive legislature that citizens can participate in at will. Policy debates take place at all hours of the day in official chat rooms and forums moderated by specially programmed virtual intelligences. Oh, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. All aspects of policy are open to plebiscite at any time. In any given debate, the Asari tend to lend the most credence to the opinions of any matriarchs present, nearly always deferring to the experience of these millennia-old wise women. Achieving consensus through public debate may take too long in a crisis. In cases where prompt, decisive action is required, the Asari defer to the wisdom of local matriarchs. Asari military doctrine. The Asari military resembles a collection of tribal warrior bands with no national structure. Each community organizes its own unit as the locals see fit, and elect a leader to command them. Units from populous cities are large and well-equipped, while those from farm villages may be only a few women with small arms. There is no uniform, everyone wears what they like. The Asari military is not an irregular militia, however. Those who serve are full-time professionals. The average Asari huntress is in the maiden stage of her life and has devoted 20 to 30 years to studying the martial arts. Asari choose to be warriors at a young age, and their education from that point is dedicated to sharpening the mind and body for that sole purpose. When they retire, they possess an alarming proficiency for killing. Huntresses fight individually or in pairs, depending on the tactics preferred in their town. One-on-one, a huntress is practically unbeatable. Possessing profound tactical insight, a hunter's eye, and a dancer's grace and alacrity. Biotics are common enough that some capability is a requirement to be trained as a huntress. Lack of biotic talent excludes a young Asari from military service. While fluid and mobile, Asari can't stand up in a firestorm the way a Krogan, Turian, or human could. Since their units are small and typically lack heavy armor and support weapons, they are almost incapable of fighting a conventional war, particularly one of a defensive nature. So Asari units typically undertake special operations missions. Like an army of ninja, they are adept at ambush, infiltration, and assassination, demoralizing and defeating their enemies through intense, focused guerrilla strikes. As a popular Turian saying puts it, the Asari are the finest warriors in the galaxy. Fortunately, there are not many of them. Asari religion. The pantheistic mainstream Asari religion is Siari, which translates roughly as all is one. The faithful agree on certain core truths. The universe is a consciousness, every life within it is an aspect of the greater whole, and death is a merging of one's spiritual energy back into the greater universal consciousness. Siarists don't specifically believe in reincarnation. They believe that spiritual energy returned to the universe consciousness upon death will eventually be used to fill new mortal vessels. Siari became popular after the Asari left their homeworld and discovered their ability to meld with nearly any form of life. Siari and Asari is a really closely sounding. This ability is seen as proof that all life is fundamentally similar. Siari priestesses see their role as promoting unity between the disparate shards of the universe's awareness. Before the rise of Siari pantheism, Asari religions were as diverse as their political opinions. The strongest survivor of those days are the monotheistic religion worshipping the goddess Athame. Like the Asari, the goddess cycles through the triple aspects of maiden, matron, and matriarch. Solarians biology. Solarians are noted for their high-speed metabolism, which allows them to function on just 1 hour of sleep a day. Holy crap! Can I be an Asari? I mean, a Solarian. That would. How long do a Asari need to sleep for? You'd think that they'd need to sleep for considerably longer. Their minds and bodies work faster than most sapient races, making them seem restless or hyperactive. The drawback of this active metabolism is a short lifespan of around 40 human years. The Solarians are amphibian haplodiploid egg layers. Unfertilized eggs produce males, and fertilized eggs produce females. Once a year, a Solarian female will lay a clutch of dozens of eggs. Social rules prevent all but a fraction from being fertilized. As a result, 90% of the species is male. Solarians have photographic memories and rarely forget a fact. They also possess a form of psychological imprinting, tending to defer to those they knew in their youth. Solarian hatching is a solemn ritual in which the clan Dalatress, matriarch, isolates herself with the eggs. Young Solarians psychologically imprint on her and tend to defer to her wishes. During the hatching of daughters, the Dalatresses of the mother and father's clans are present at the imprinting. This ensures that the offspring have equal loyalty to both, ensuring that the desired dynastic and political unity. Solarians' culture. The rare Solarian females are cloistered on their worlds out of tradition and respect. Powerful female Dalatresses are dynasts and political kingpins. They determine the political course of their respective regions through shrewd negotiation. Though male Solarians rise to positions of great authority in business, academia, or the military, they rarely have any input on politics. Due to their method of reproduction, Solarians have no concept of romantic love, sexual attraction, or the biological impulses and social rituals that complicate human lives. Male-female relationships are rare, due to the scarcity of females and more akin to human friendship. Sexuality is strictly for the purpose of reproduction. Ancient social codes determine who gets to fertilize eggs, which produces more daughters to continue a bloodline. Fertilization generally only occurs after months of negotiation between the parents' clans and is done for purposes of political and dynastic alliance. No Solarian would imagine defying this code. Solarian names are quite complex. A full name includes, in order, the name of a Solarian's planet, duchy, barony, fiefdom, family, and finally, the given name. Government. The Solarian government is called the Solarian Union. It is a labyrinthine web of matrilineal bloodlines, with political alliances formed through interbreeding. In many ways, the Solarian political network functions like the noble families of Earth's medieval Europe. Structurally, the government consists of fiefdoms, baronies, duchies, planets, and marches, colonization clusters. These are human nicknames. The original Solarian is unpronounceable. Each area is ruled by a single Dalatras, matriarchal head of household, and represents an increasing amount of territory and prestige within the Solarian political web. Approaching 100 members, the first circle of a Solarian's clan comprises parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, and cousins. The next circle includes second cousins, etc., and escalates to well over 1,000 members. The fourth or fifth circle of a clan numbers into the millions. Solarian loyalty is greatest to their first circle and diminishes from there. Their photographic memories allow Solarians to recognize all their myriad relatives. Solarians' military doctrine. In principle, the Solarian military is similar to the Alliance, a small volunteer army that focuses on maneuver warfare. What differentiates the Solarians is not their equipment or doctrine, but their intelligence services and rules of engagement. The Solarians believe that a war should be won before it begins. Conventional wisdom holds that the Solarians know everything about everyone, and this is not far from the truth. In war, the unquestioned superiority of their intelligence services allows them to use their small military to maximum effectiveness. Well before fighting breaks out, they possess complete knowledge of their enemy's positions, intentions, and timetable. In every war the Solarians have fought, they struck first and without warning. For the Solarians, to know an enemy plans to attack and to let it happen is folly. To announce their own plans to attack is insanity. They find the human moral concepts of do not fire until fired upon and declare a war before prosecuting it incredibly naive. In defensive wars, they execute devastating preemptive strikes hours before the enemy's own attacks. On the offense, they have never telegraphed their intentions with a declaration of war before attacking. Biotics are virtually unknown in the Solarian military. Those with such abilities are considered too valuable to be used as cannon fodder and are assigned to the intelligence services. While capable of defending themselves against most threats, the Solarians know that they are small fish in a universe filled with sharks. As a point of survival, they have cultivated strong alliances with larger powers, particularly with the Turians. Though the relationship between the two species was rocky at first due to the Krogan uplift fiasco, the Solarians take pains to keep this relationship strong enough that anyone who might threaten them risks Turian intervention. Solarian Special Tasks Group. Solarian intelligence field agents are grouped into an organization called the Special Tasks Group. STG operators work in independent cells. I used to work for a company called STG, performing dangerous missions such as counterterrorism, infiltration, reconnaissance, assassination, and sabotage. The STG is a proactive organization, puncturing worrisome trends before they become movements. At any time, a dozen groups are operating covertly within the lawless Terminus system, sowing dissent among the various factions. Civilian analysts also note how troublesome hinge point individuals in Terminus frequently meet unexpected deaths. STG operators are feared throughout the galaxy for their clear-eyed, remorseless practicality. They are willing to do whatever it takes to achieve their mission, even if it kills civilians or results in the team's own destruction. In many ways, they are akin to the Council Spectres. Recently, a number of STG cells have been redeployed from Solarian Union. It is assumed they are in the Terminus and Attican Traverse, investigating reports of Geth activity beyond the Perseus Veil. Turians Biology. The Turian homeworld, Palaven, has a metal-poor core, generating a weak magnetic field and allowing more solar radiation into the atmosphere. To deal with this, most forms of life on Palaven evolved some form of metallic exoskeleton to protect themselves. The reflective plate-like skin makes Turians less susceptible to long-term, low-level radiation exposure, but they do not possess any sort of natural armor. A Turian's thick skin does not stop projectiles and directed energy bolts. Though life on Palaven is carbon-based and oxygen-breathing, it is built on dextroamino acids. This places the Turians in a distinct minority on the galactic stage. The Quarians are the only other known sapient dextroprotein race. The food of humans, Asari, or Solarians, who evolved in levo-amino acid-based biospheres, will at best pass through the Turian systems without providing any nutrition. At worst, it will trigger an allergic reaction that can be fatal if not immediately treated. It's been a while since I've known any, I did any biology classes or anything like that, so I'm not sure if this is real, dextroamino acids and levoamino acids. I don't know if it's made up for this or if it's a real, theory. Turians' culture. While Turians are individuals with personal desires, their instinct is to equate the self with the group, and set aside personal desires for the good of all. There was no, Solarian religion. There's no Turian religion either. Turians are taught to have a strong sense of personal accountability, the Turian honor that other races find so remarkable. Turians are taught to own every decision they make, good or ill. The worst sin they can make in the eyes of other people is to lie about their own actions. Turians who murder will try to get away with it, but if directly questioned, most will confess the crime. Turians have a strong inclination toward public service and self-sacrifice, so they tend to be poor entrepreneurs. To compensate, they accepted the mercantile Volus as a client race, offering protection in exchange for their fiscal expertise. The Turian military is the center of their society. It is not just an armed force, it is an all-encompassing public works organization. The military police are also the civic police. The fire brigades serve the civilian population as well as military facilities. The Corps of Engineers builds and maintains spaceports, schools, water purification plants, and power stations. The Merchant Marine ensures that all worlds get needed resources. Turians' military doctrine. Although they lack the brutality of the Krogan, the skill of the Asari, and the virtuosity of the humans. Virtuosity, really? The Turian military has formidable discipline. Officers and NCOs are lifers with years of field experience. Enlisted personnel are thoroughly trained and stay calm under fire. Turian units don't break. Even if their entire line collapses, they fall back in orders, setting ambushes as they go. A popular saying holds, you will only see a Turian's back once he's dead. Boot camp begins on the 15th birthday. Soldiers receive a year of training before being assigned to a field unit. Officers train for even longer. Most serve until the age of 30, at which point they become part of the reserves. Even if they suffer injuries preventing frontline service, most do support work behind the lines. Biotics are uncommon. While admired for their exacting skills, biotics' motives are not always fully trusted by the common soldier. The Turians prefer to assign their biotics to specialist teams called cabals. Command and control is decentralized and flexible. Individual squads can call for artillery and air support. They make extensive use of combat drones for light duties and practice combined arms. Infantry operates with armor, supported by overhead gunships. Strategically, they're methodical and patient, and dislike risky operations. Tradition is important. Each legion has a full-time staff of historians who chronicle the battles, its battle honors in detail. The oldest have records dating back to the Turian Iron Age. If a legion is destroyed in battle, it is reconstituted rather than replaced. The Turians recruit auxiliary units from conquered or absorbed minor races. Auxiliaries are generally light infantry or armored cavalry units that screen and support the main Turian formations. At the conclusion of their service in the auxiliaries, recruits are granted Turian citizenship. Again, not a whole lot about how long they live for. Let's see, aliens, extinct races. I am unsure if I've read Prothean's Beacon. I think so, since it's talking about the one on Eden Prime, so let's go for Cypher. The Prothean Beacon downloaded its knowledge into Lieutenant Commander Shepard on Eden Prime, causing confusing dreams and visions. While the imagery is becoming clearer with time, the meaning of the beacon communication remains elusive. It has been suggested that the Prothean data recording is highly dependent on a certain point of view, what Carl Jung described as a collective unconscious. Oh, hey, seems like we've got some Xenosaga in our Mass Effect here. The cipher needed to comprehend the images implanted in Shepard's mind is the cultural knowledge of a Prothean, the archetypes, biological instincts, and common experiences universal to the race. Since the Protheans have been dead for millennia, it may be impossible to acquire this cipher. Protheans, Mars ruins. After 20 years of manned research outposts and nearly a century of robotic exploration, the European Space Agency's Lowell City became the first permanent settlement on Mars in 2103. Within a decade, the United States and China had found permanent settlements as well. The South Polar region of Promethei Planum developed a Bermuda Triangle reputation. Satellites detected intermittent mass concentrations and magnetic field shifts. In 2148, prospectors working near Deseado Crater discovered an underground complex, a Prothean observation post. The odd phenomena were generated by the operation and discharge of a Mass Effect core, struggling to function despite 50 millennia of neglect. That is pretty impressive. Earth was electrified by the news. Humanity was unequivocally not alone. While courts battled over who owned the ruins, the international scientific community coordinated a massive effort to access, translate, and interpret the databanks recovered from the facility. The facility proved to be a biosciences observation post built when Homo sapiens were first evolving on Earth. While the motives of the Protheans are not certain, translated records indicate that the facility was in regular communication with automated observation platforms in Earth orbit and on the lunar near side. The half-dozen Mass Effect spaceships found in the facility were presumably used for first-hand observation. So, whatever happened to the automated observation platforms in Earth orbit? I mean, they could have, burnt up in the atmosphere. But still, some of them might have, some bits of them might have survived. What happened to the stuff on the moon? Don't know. Alright, aliens, non-council races. Geth armatures. Armatures are quadruped, all-terrain heavy weapons platforms akin to the armored fighting vehicles of other races. Geth being synthetic intelligences, armatures are not crude vehicles, but intelligent entities capable of independent decision-making and learning. Armatures are equipped with heavy kinetic barriers. Their main cannon, mounted on the articulated head turret, appears to be a highly efficient conventional mass accelerator. It is capable of firing in anti-personnel and anti-tank modes. Some armatures carry drones into battle, presumably for reconnaissance purposes. Others host a swarm of insect-sized repair microbots. Not sure if we saw either of those, and there's no period here. It's terrible. Geth hoppers. The Geth models, collectively dubbed hoppers by Alliance forces, are electronic warfare platforms. They can project electromagnetic radiation across a broad spectrum as an offensive weapon. They can also perform cyber warfare attacks against onboard computers of body armor, hardsuits, and weapons, effectively adversely affecting their performance. The structure of hoppers consists of an advanced and highly elastic artificial muscle material. This allows a hopper to compress its entire body for powerful leaps. Hoppers also have thousands of molecule-scale barbs on the surface of their hands and feet, which are used to cling to walls and ceilings. Hoppers are very difficult to target, leaping from one surface to another in rapid succession. The Quarians have no record of any Geth models similar to Hoppers. This new morphotype must have been developed over the last 300 years by the Geth themselves. This is troubling proof that the Geth are continuing to move towards technological singularity. Experts in synthetic life are intrigued that Hoppers appear to be even more organic than the baseline Geth. Identified subtypes of Hopper have been codenamed Sapper, Stalker, and Ghost. Troubling proof that the Geth are continuing to move towards technological singularity? What the hell does that even mean in this case? It's a new type that... I mean, they're not all becoming that. I don't know. Krogan biology. The Krogan evolved in a lethal ecology. Over millions of years, the grim struggle to survive larger predators, virulent disease, and resource scarcity on their homeworld Tuchanka turned the lizards into quintessential survivors. Oh, they're reptilian. Okay. I didn't quite realize that. That makes sense, though. They have very human-like teeth. Although, actually, I mean, with their teeth, they, probably not overall meat-eaters, you'd think. Perhaps the most telling indicator of Tuchanka's lethality is the Krogan eyes. Although they are a predator species by any standard definition, their eyes evolved to be wide-set, as in Earth prey species like deer and cattle. Krogan eyes have a 240-degree arc of vision, better suited for spotting enemies, sneaking up on them than for pursuit. Physically, the Krogan are nigh indestructible, with a tough hide, impervious to any melee weapons short of a molecular blade. While they feel pain, it does not affect their ability to concentrate. They have multiple functioning examples of all major organs, and can often survive the loss of one or two of any type. Rather than a nervous system, they have an electrically conductive second circulatory system. A Krogan can never be paralyzed. They may lose some of its fluid, but it can be replaced by the body in time. The hump on a Krogan's back stores water and fats that help the Krogan survive lean times. Large humps are a point of pride. Being well-fed implies the Krogan is a superior predator. The most widely known biological feature of the Krogan is their incredible birth rate and rapid maturity. Once freed from the hostile cauldron of Tuchanka, the Krogan population swelled into a numberless horde. Only the genophage kept them from outbreeding the combined council races. Now the rare Krogan females capable of bringing a child to term are treated like strategic resources. Warlords will trade them at diplomacy, or more frequently fight wars over them. Krogan culture. The harsh Krogan homeworld conditioned the Krogan psychology for toughness just as it did the body. Krogan have always had a tendency to be selfish, unsympathetic, and blunt. They respect strength and self-reliance and are neither surprised nor offended by treachery. The weak and selfless do not live long. In their culture, looking out for number one is simply a matter of course. After their defeat in the rebellions, the very concept of Krogan leadership was discredited. Where a warlord could once command enough power to bring entire solar systems to heel and become overlord, these days it is rare for a single leader to have more than 1,000 warriors swear allegiance to him. Most Krogan trust and serve in no one but themselves. This solitary attitude stems in part from a deep sense of fatalism and futility, a profound social effect of the genophage that caused Krogan numbers to dwindle to a relative handful. Not only are they angry at the entire galaxy seems out to get them, the Krogan are also generally pessimistic about their race's chances of survival. The surviving Krogan see no point to building for the future. There will be no future. The Krogan live with the attitude of kill, pillage, and be selfish, for tomorrow we die. Krogan military doctrine. Traditional Krogan tactics were built on attritional mass unit warfare. Equipped with cheap, rugged gear, troop formations were powerful but inflexible. Command and control was very centralized. Soldiers in the field who saw a target contacted their commanders behind the lines to arrange fire support. Since the genophage, the Krogan can no longer afford the casualties of the old horde attacks. The Battlemasters are a match for any 10 soldiers of another species. To a Battlemaster, killing is a science. They focus on developing a clean, brute force economy of motion that exploits their brutal strength to incapacitate enemies with the swift single blow of overwhelming power. This change of focus from mass unit warfare to maximal efficiency has increased employment demand in the fields of security and muscle for hire. Due to the unsavory reputation of the Krogan, most of these jobs are on the far side of the law. Battlemasters are not spit and polish, but they do believe in being well armed and equipped, preferably with a gun for each limb. They are callous and brutal, but methodical and disciplined. They use any means at their disposal to achieve their goals, no matter how reprehensible. Hostage-taking and genocide are acceptable means to ensure the quiet occupation with few Krogan casualties. The Krogan serving with Saren's forces appear to be returning to the old style of mass attritional combat. They also work in close cooperation with supporting Geth units, who fill the roles occupied by combat drones in other armies. Biotics are rare among the Krogan. Those that exist are viewed with suspicion and fear. The Krogan see this aura of fear as a useful quality for an officer, and often promote them. Combat drones and other high-tech equipment are likewise in short supply. I guess that makes Rex one of the rare ones. Let's see. Humanity and the Systems Alliance. Let's see. Probably read that one. Military doctrine. The Alliance military is of great concern to the galaxy. At first contact with the Turians, they were completely inexperienced. Turian disdain changed to respect after the relief of Shang-Chi, where the humans surprised them with novel technologies and tactics. The human devotion to understanding and adapting to modern space warfare stunned the staid Council races. For hundreds of years, they had lived behind secure walls of long-proven technologies and tactics. The Council regards the Alliance as a sleeping giant. Less than 3% of humans volunteer to serve in their military, a lower proportion than any other species. While competent, Alliance soldiers are neither as professional as the Turians nor as skilled as the Asari. Their strengths lie in fire support, flexibility, and speed. They make up for lack of numbers with sophisticated technological support, VIs, drones, artillery, electronic warfare, and emphasis on mobility and individual initiative. Their doctrine is not based on absorbing and dishing out heavy shocks like the Turians and Krogan. Rather, they bypass enemy strong points and launch deep into their rear, cutting supply lines and destroying headquarters while support units, leaving enemies to wither on and destroying headquarters and leaving enemies to wither on the vine. On defense, the human military is a rapid reaction force that lives by Sun Tzu's maxim: he who tries to defend everything defends nothing. Garrisons are intended for scouting rather than combat, avoiding engagement to observe and report on invaders using drones. The token garrisons of human colonies make it easy for alien powers to secure them, for which the Alliance media criticizes the military. However, the powerful fleets stationed at phase gate nexuses such as Arcturus are just a few hours or days from any colony within their sphere of responsibility. In the event of an attack, they respond with overwhelming force. And yet, like, we constantly talk about the fact that Shang-Chi was the only one that's ever been occupied. And, yeah, whatever. Terra Firma Party. Terra Firma is an alliance political party formed after the First Contact War. Its policy agenda is based on the principle that Earth must stand firm against alien influences. This covers a variety of legislation. Recent activities by Terra Firma include opposition to a law requiring high school alien language study, a proposal to increase tariffs on alien imports, and leading a popular movement to mark the First Contact War with a public holiday. Though founded by well-meaning individuals who feared the submersion of native human cultures under a wave of alien vogue, Terra Firma's agenda attracts many jingoists and xenophobes. God, that is a horrible, horrible line. No, I'm sorry, that's a horrible line. The whole thing starts at... If you are, let's see, must stand firm against alien influences. That in and of itself is racist. These are not well-meaning individuals who feared the submersion of native human cultures under a wave of alien vogue. They're just racists. Xenophobes, as the case may be. Planets and locations. Stations. Arcturus Station. Arcturus Station is the gateway to Sol, a 5-kilometer diameter Stanford Torus type space station at the trailing Lagrange point of the gas giant Themis. Construction on Arcturus Station began in 2151 and concluded in 2162. It was inaugurated in 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has served as the military and political headquarters of the Systems Alliance from the First Contact War until the present. 2156 and has ser When humanity activated the Charon mass relay in 2149, it led to Arcturus, 36 light-years from Sol, Earth's sun. Arcturus is the third brightest star seen from Earth. It is an ancient red giant from the generation born before Sol. Its worlds are either gas giants or ice chunks. While some rocky debris exists, the metal content is 25% lower than normal. To build Arcturus Station, metallic asteroids were towed through the mass relays to the construction site. Many of these asteroids remain near the station, their mined-out areas home to transient populations. The expense of bringing construction materials into the system was acceptable due to its strategic value. With 3 primary mass relays in addition to the secondary one to Sol, Arcturus is a major communications and military choke point. The Alliance First Fleet is based in Arcturus, where it can guard the gates to Sol and react to incursions in 3 connected clusters. The station also hosts the Systems Alliance Parliament and the Systems Alliance Military General Headquarters. Its permanent population is approximately 45,000. Arcturus is actually from the galactic halo, one of a cluster of 52 stars that are crashing through the disk of the galaxy. In 1 billion years, Arcturus will be sailing through the depths of extragalactic dark space. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have built a station there. I mean, who knows what could happen? You know, I mean, in 1 billion years, it's going to be off in the, Actually, I wonder if the Mass Effect relay would still take you there. That'd be an interesting thing to ponder. Gagarin Station is the largest deep space station built by humanity, a Bernal sphere designed with a 500-meter diameter habitable area. It was constructed beyond Pluto, nearly 80 astronomical units, 12 billion kilometers from Sol. Moving crew material to this location bankrupted most of the backers. Gagarin was placed at the inner edge of the heliopause, a point at which the solar wind can no longer push back the interstellar medium. It was built to test a number of faster-than-light drive principles that theoretically could only occur in interstellar space. The station was nicknamed Jump Zero, as it was intended to be the jumping-off point for humanity's expansion into the galaxy. Shortly after the station was completed, the Prothean ruins were discovered on Mars, rendering the entire effort moot. After struggling to make a profit for a decade, Gagarin was sold to the Systems Alliance in 2159 for a fraction of its construction costs. The Alliance refurbished it as a research and training center for the recently discovered biotic phenomenon. In 2169, the Biotic Acclimation and Training Program was shut down, and Gagarin became a general research facility. Its remote location and intentional isolation from the extranet makes it popular for dangerous research, particularly in the field of artificial intelligence. Humanity's first stable AI, the Alliance-sponsored ELIZA, achieved sapience at Gagarin in 2172. Today, Gagarin Station has a permanent population of approximately 9,000. A plan has been proposed to move it to the gravitationally stable Berry Center point between Pluto and the Charon Relay, allowing it to serve as a gateway facility between the Sol and Arcturus systems. The high cost of safely moving its mass has delayed this indefinitely. Well, that's news about this AI. So, what's going on with that? I don't remember that being mentioned at all. Ships and vehicles. FTL drive appearance. New space travelers ask, what does it look like outside a ship moving at faster than light speed? Part of the answer can be seen in the simple pane of glass. Light travels slower through the glass than it does through open air. Light also moves slower in conventional space than it does in a high-speed Mass Effect field. This causes refraction. Any light entering at an angle is bent and separated into the spectrum. Objects outside the ship will appear refracted. The greater the difference between the objective exterior and subjective interior speeds of light, the greater the refraction. As the subjective speed of light is raised within the field, objectives outside will appear to redshift, eventually becoming visible only to radio telescope antenna. High-energy electromagnetic sources, normally hidden to the eye, become visible in the high blue spectrum. As the speed of light continues to be raised, X-ray, gamma ray, and eventually cosmic ray sources become visible. Stars will be replaced by pulsars, and the accretion disks of black holes, quasars, and gamma ray bursts. To an outside observer, a ship within a Mass Effect drive envelope appears blue-shifted. If within a field that allows travel at twice the speed of light, any radiation it emits has twice the energy as normal. If the ship is in a field about 200 times light speed, it radiates visible light as X-rays and gamma rays. and the infrared heat from the hull is blue shifted up into the visible spectrum or higher. Ships moving at FTL are visible at great distances, though their signature will only propagate at the speed of light. I'm not so sure. I mean, it depends on how the light comes in, but I mean, I suppose you could intersect with the moving light. But, like, for example, as soon as you enter faster than light speed, you're not seeing anything behind you. Either that or you would be seeing it, like, age regress or something like that. It'd be kind of weird. You could still see things ahead of you, though. FTL drive charge. As positive or negative electric current is passed through an FTL drive core, it acquires a static electrical charge. Oh, hey, kind of like my room when it's winter. Drives can be operated at an average of 50 hours before they reach charge saturation. This change is proportional to the magnitude of mass reduction. A heavier or faster ship reaches saturation more quickly. If the charge is allowed to build, the core will discharge into the hull of a ship. All ungrounded crew members are fried to a crisp, all electronic systems are burned out, and metal bulkheads may be melted and fused together. Ooh, sounds fun. The safest way to discharge a core is to land on a planet and establish a connection to the ground, like a lightning rod. Larger vessels like dreadnoughts cannot land and must discharge into a planetary magnetic field. The ship passes the charge from the drive core to the exterior armored hull, then dives into the magnetic field. As the hull discharges, sheets of lightning jump away into the field, creating beautiful auroral displays on the planet. The ship must retract its sensors and weapons while dumping charge to prevent damage, leaving it blind and helpless. Discharging at a moon with a weak magnetic field can take days. Discharging into the powerful field of a gas giant may require less than an hour. Deep space facilities, such as the Citadel, often have special discharge facilities for visiting ships. Combat endurance. Heat limits the length and intensity of ship-to-ship combat. Starships generate enormous heat when they fire high-energy weapons, perform maneuvering burns, and run onboard combat electronics. In combat, warships produce heat more quickly than they can disperse it. As heat builds within a vessel, the crewed spaces become increasingly uncomfortable. Before the heat reaches lethal levels, a ship must win or retreat by entering FTL. After an FTL run, the ship halts, shuts down non-essential systems, and activates the heat radiation gear. Combat endurance varies by ship design and by the battle's location. Battles in the deep cold of interstellar space can go on for some time. Engagements close to a star are brief. Since habitable worlds are usually close to a star, battles over them are frantic. General tactics. Shells lofted by surface navies crash back to Earth when their acceleration is overwhelmed by gravity and air resistance. In space, a projectile has unlimited range. It will keep moving until it hits something, like a science vessel or the crystal shell. Practical gunnery range is determined by the velocity of the attacker's ordnance and the maneuverability of the target. Beyond a certain range, a small ship's ability to dodge trumps a larger attacker's projectile speed. The longest ranged combat occurs between dreadnoughts, whose projectiles have the highest velocity but are the least maneuverable. The shortest range combat is between frigates, which have the slowest projectile velocities and highest maneuverability. Opposing dreadnoughts often open with a main gun artillery duel at extreme ranges of tens of thousands of kilometers. Extreme ranges, because you gotta do something like that when it's capitalized, right? The fleets close, maintaining evasive lateral motion while keeping their bow guns facing the enemy. Fighters are launched and attempt to close to disruptor torpedo range. Cautious admirals weaken the enemy with ranged fire and fighter strikes before committing to close action. Aggressive commanders advance so cruisers and frigates can engage. At long range, the main guns of cruisers become useful. Friendly interceptors engage enemy fighters until their attackers enter the range of ship-based Guardian. Oh, right, that was mentioned in one of the other things, I think. Guardian fire. Dreadnoughts fire from the rear, screened by smaller ships. Commanders must decide whether to commit to a general melee or retreat into FTL. All attacks also suffer a -5 penalty to hit. At medium range, ships can use broadside guns. Fleets intermingle, and it becomes difficult to retreat in order. Ships with damaged kinetic barriers are vulnerable to Wolfpack frigate flotillas that speed through the battle space. Attacks also suffer -2 penalty to their hits. Only fighters and frigates enter close knife fight ranges of 10 or fewer kilometers. Fighters loose their disruptor torpedoes, bringing down a ship's kinetic barriers and allowing it to be swarmed by frigates. Guardian lasers become viable weapons, swatting down fighters and boiling away warship armor. Neither dreadnoughts nor cruisers can use their main guns at close range. Laying the bow on a moving target becomes impossible. Superheated thruster exhaust becomes a hazard. Space combat planetary assaults. Planetary assaults are complicated if the target is a habitable garden world. The attackers cannot approach the defenders straight on. The Citadel conventions prohibit the use of large kinetic impactors against habitable worlds. In a straight-on attack, any misses plow into the planet behind the defending fleet. If the defenders position themselves between the attackers and the planet, they can fire at will while the attacker risks hitting the planet. Successful assaults on garden worlds hinge upon up-to-date intelligence. Attackers need to determine where the enemy's defenses are, so they may approach from an angle that allows them to fire with no danger of collateral damage. Note, this is not necessary for hostile worlds. Once control of orbit has been lost, defensive garrisons disperse into the wilderness. An enemy with orbital superiority can bombard surface forces with impunity. The best option for defenders is to hide and collect reconnaissance in anticipation of relief forces. Given the size of a planet, it is impractical to garrison entire conquered worlds. Fortunately, colonization efforts tend to focus on building up a dozen or fewer areas. Ground forces occupy the spaceports, industrial facilities, and major population centers. The wilderness is patrolled by unmanned aerial vehicles and satellite reconnaissance. If a defender unit is spotted, air-mobile rapid deployment units and satellite artillery are used to pin down and destroy them. Well, that sounds like fun. Starships, heat management. Dispersal of heat generated by onboard systems is a critical issue for a ship. If it cannot deal with heat, the crew may be cooked within the hull to a delicious, delicious temperature. Make sure that you marinate them well first. Radiation is the only way to shed heat in a vacuum. Civilian vessels utilize large, fragile radiator panels that are impossible to armor. Warships use diffuse radiator arrays, ceramic strips along the exterior of the armored hull. These make the ship appear striped to thermographic sensors. Since the arrangement of the strips depend on the internal configuration of the ship, the pattern for each vessel is unique and striking. On older ships, the DRA strips could become red or white hot. Dubbed tiger stripes or war paint by humans, the glowing DRA had a psychological impact on pirates and irregular forces. Strip radiators are not as efficient as panels, but if damaged by enemy fire, the ship only loses a small portion of its total radiation capacity. In most cases, a vessel's DRA alone allows it to cruise with no difficulties. Operations deep within a solar system can cause problems. A ship engaged in combat can produce titanic amounts of heat from maneuvering burns and weapons fire. When fighting in a high heat environment, warships employ high-efficiency droplet heat sinks. In a droplet system, tanks of liquid sodium or lithium absorb heat within the ship. The liquid is vented from spray nozzles near the bow as a thin sheet of millions of micrometer-scale droplets. The droplets are caught at the stern and recycled into the system. A droplet system can sink 10 to 100 times as much heat as DRA strips. How are the droplets caught? I don't know. I mean, I guess if you have the spray nozzles specifically pointing backwards, but even so, there's going to be a lot of dispersal. You're going to be losing a lot of those droplets. Droplet sheets resemble a surface ship's wake through the water. The wake peels out in sharp turns, spreading a fan of droplets as the ship changes vectors and leaves the coolant behind. Starship's thrusters. The Mass Effect drive core decreases the mass of a bubble of space-time around a ship. That gives a ship the potential to move quickly, but does not apply any motive power. Ships use their sublight thrusters for motive power at FTL. There are several varieties of thruster, varying in performance versus economy. All ships are equipped with arrays of hydrogen-oxygen reactor control thrusters for maneuvering. Ion drives are electrically accelerated. Ion drives electrically accelerate charged particles as a reaction mass. They are extremely efficient but produce negligible thrust. They are mainly used for automated cargo barges. No, they do not produce negligible thrust. It's just that you need to build up thrust. We've actually tested ion drives, and you can get them to go really fast. It just takes a while to build up the speed. I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be good for, you know, like a lot of maneuvering and stuff like that, but, you know, if you were to, like, if you wanted to get a straight shot from Earth to Pluto, for example, that'd be a pretty good way of doing it. The primary commercial engine is a fusion torch, which vents the plasma of the ship's power plant. Fusion torches offer powerful acceleration at the cost of difficult heat management. Torch fuel is fairly cheap. Helium-3 skimmed from gas giants, and deuterium extracted from seawater or cometary bodies. Propellant is hydrogen, likewise skimmed from gas giants. In combat, military vessels require accelerations beyond the capability of fusion torches. Warship thrusters inject antiprotons into a reaction chamber filled with hydrogen. The matter-antimatter annihilation provides unmatched motive power. The drawback is fuel production. Antiprotons must be manufactured one particle at a time. Most antimatter production is done at massive solar arrays orbiting energetic stars, making them high-value targets in wartime. The exhaust of fusion and antiproton drives is measured in millions of degrees Celsius. Any vessel should be measured in millions of degrees Kelvin at this point. Any vessel caught behind them will melt like wax in a blowtorch. Any long-duration interstellar flight consists of two phases, acceleration and deceleration. Starships accelerate to the halfway point of their journey, then flip 180 degrees and apply thrust on the opposite vector, decelerating as they finish the trip. The engines are always operating, and peak speed is attained at the middle of flight. Combat drones. Drones are small robots used to support and supplement organic soldiers on the battlefield. They have no artificial intelligence of any kind, but follow fixed, minimally adaptive programs. Most varieties employ Mass Effect levitation to improve mobility. All modern armies rely on veritable fleets of drones for routine soldiering, static garrisons, patrols, etc. The use of drones in non-critical duties keeps manpower needs down and reduces casualties in low-intensity conflicts. Less advanced races and cultures, and with less sensitivity to casualties, have correspondingly fewer drones in their inventory. Drones are of little use in conventional open-field battles, as they are poorly armed and armored. Well, you could always add more arms and armor, couldn't you? In addition to combat drones, support drones are used to assist organic units in the field. Reconnaissance drones are small, stealthy craft that screen combat units in the field and warn commanders when enemies are spotted. Electronic warfare drones supplement battlefield technicians, serving as mobile jammers and ELINT, electronic intelligence gathering platforms. Yeah, there's a missing closed bracket there. Closed parentheses. Military and civilian police utilize Dazzler drones equipped with powerful strobe lights to disorient and subdue intruders using non-lethal force. Drone formations are officially referred to as wings, i.e. deploy the 4th Assault Drone Wing on the left flank. Common soldiers often refer to friendly formations as flocks and enemy formations as swarms. Disruptor torpedoes. Disruptor torpedoes are powered projectiles with warheads that create random and unstable Mass Effect fields when triggered. These fields warp space-time in a localized area. The rapid asymmetrical mass changes cause the target to rip itself apart. In flight, torpedoes use a mass-increasing field, making them too massive for enemy kinetic barriers to repulse. This extra mass gives torpedoes very sluggish acceleration, making them easy prey for defensive Guardian weapons, so torpedoes have to be launched at very close range. Torpedoes are the main anti-ship weapon used by fighters. They are launched from point-blank range in ripple-fire waves reminiscent of the ancient Calliope rocket artillery launchers. Thus their popular nickname, Callies. By saturating defensive Guardian systems with multiple targets, at least a few will get through. Guardian. A ship's general area defense integration anti-spacecraft network, Guardian, consists of anti-missile, anti-fighter laser turrets on the exterior hull. Don't you love those acronyms that you're pretty sure they came up with the acronym and then figured out what it would mean after the fact? Because these are under computer control, the gunnery control officer needs to do little beyond turn the system on and designate targets as hostile. Since lasers move at light speed, they cannot be dodged by anything moving at non-relativistic speeds. Unless the beam is aimed poorly, it will always hit its target. Well, and, you know, if it's targeting something very small, that does tend to be an issue. In the early stages of battle, the Guardian fire is 100% accurate. It is not 100% lethal, but it doesn't have to be. Damaged fighters must break off for repairs. Lasers are limited by diffraction. The beam spreads out, decreasing the energy density, watts per meter squared, the weapons can place on a target. Any high-powered laser is a short-ranged weapon. Guardian networks have another limitation: heat. Weapons-grade lasers require cooldown time, during which heat is transferred to sinks or radiators. As lasers fire, heat builds within them, reducing damage range and accuracy. Fighters attack in swarms. The first few will be hit by Guardian, but as the battle continues, the effects of laser overheat allow the attackers to press ever closer to the ship. Constant use will burn out a laser. Guardian lasers typically operate in infrared frequencies. Shorter frequencies would offer superior stopping power and range, but degradation of focal arrays and mirrors would make them expensive to maintain, and most prefer mechanical reliability over bleeding-edge performance where lives are concerned. Solarians, however, use near-ultraviolet frequency lasers with 6 times the range, believing that having additional time to shoot down incoming missiles is more important. I would not want to argue with that one either, actually. That's a pretty good idea. Lasers are not blocked by the kinetic barriers of capital ships. However, the range of lasers limits their use to rare knife fight range ship-to-ship combat. And technology. Biotic amps. Biotics manipulate Mass Effect fields using dozens of Element Zero nodules with... I think we read that one. Biotics. Life as a biotic. Biotics possess extraordinary abilities, but they must live with minor inconveniences. The most obvious issue is getting adequate nutrition. Creating biotic Mass Effects takes such a toll on metabolism that active biotics develop ravenous appetites. The standard Alliance combat ration for a soldier is 3,000 calories per day. Biotics are given 4,500, as well as a canteen of potent energy drink for quick refreshment after hard combat. Another issue is electric charge. Electricity accumulated in Starship drive cores must be discharged, and so must the electricity in a biotic user. Biotics are prone to small static discharges when they touch metal. Damn, that sounds a lot like me. All the goddamn time. Static electricity shocks on every... The last place I worked, when it was in the dead of winter and it was super dry in the building, which it usually was, especially in winter, which you would think would be a bad thing with in an IT company with computers all around, I'd get statically shocked from the freaking water faucets. It was horrible. I mean, like, the water coming out, yeah, that would shock me. Probably also tells you about the mineral content of that water. Unfortunately, human biotics also face suspicion and persecution, beginning with the popular misconception that they can read and control minds. Biotics symbolize the dehumanization of mankind to people philosophically religiously opposed to gene modification and cybernetics. Militaries are the only organizations that always welcome biotics, offering them huge recruitment incentives. Biotics training. Biotic implants and amplifiers only provide the potential to create coherent Mass Effect fields. Whether biotics can actually do so is largely determined by their training. Biotics must develop conscious control over their nervous systems, sending specific electrical impulses to the Element Zero nodules embedded in their nerves. They are taught to use their implants and amps with biofeedback devices and physical mnemonics. Specific gestures or muscle movements fire the proper sequence of nerves to activate a certain skill. Codex Industries pioneered biotic training with the Biotic Acclimation and Temperance training program. Although BOT did not achieve the desired results, many techniques taught are still used today. Many human think tanks are trying to develop some form of biotic super soldier. Most are benign efforts to create more flexible troops. Others, less publicly known, are unapologetic attempts to create Nietzschean supermen. Oh, lovely. I don't know why we don't get Asari to train us, though. Communications. Real-time communication is possible thanks to networks of expensive mass relay convoys that can daisy-chain a transmission via lasers. Comm buoys are maintained in patterns built outward from each mass relay. The buoys are little more than a cluster of primitive miniature mass relays. Each individual Really? Well, okay, primitive, I guess. Each individual buoy is connected to a partner on another buoy in the network, forming a corridor of low-mass space. Tight beam communications lasers are piped through these tubes of FTL space, allowing virtually instantaneous communication to anywhere on the network. The networks connect across regions by communications lasers through the mass relays. With this system, the only communications delay is the light lag between the source or destination and the closest buoy. So long as all parties remain within half a light second, 150,000 kilometers of buoys, seamless real-time communications are possible. Since buoys are maintained in all traveled areas, most enjoy unlimited instant communication. Ships only suffer communications lag when operating off established deep space routes, around uninhabited outer system, gas giants, and other unsettled areas. During wartime, comm buoy networks are the first target of attacks. Once the network is severed, it can take anywhere from weeks to years to get a message out of a contested system. In a system where a buoy network has not yet been built or has been destroyed, rapid communication means ferrying information through high-speed courier ships and unmanned data drones. In other words, this is our way of letting you talk to, I am completely blanking on the Admiral's name. Whatever, that guy. And get missions from him. Communications methodology. As the population of the galaxy increases and new worlds are settled, timely access for home users in frontier settlements with underdeveloped communication infrastructures is a growing problem. To ameliorate bandwidth issues, a sophisticated array of data caches and virtual intelligence search agent programs are available. When a user submits a query, it is first routed to the data cache on their colony or star system. At the cache, the user's search agent VI collates mountains of locally stored data to find the desired material. If the information is not available locally, the query is passed along to neighboring systems, and then outward in an expanding network. VI search agents in those systems replicate the search. If the desired information is found, it is compressed into a burst file and queued for transmission to the source system. The burst is assigned a priority based on the number of queries for it. The greater the number of queries, the higher the priority. When a new solar system is first contacted on the net, a selection of the most popular data is installed locally. Though storage hardware is cheap, the capacity required to hold all the data produced every day by trillions of people on hundreds of worlds is not trivial. It's not economical to store local copies of all the data available on obscure topics just in case. I resent that, sirs. I want my Wikipedia on obscure material available instantaneously to me wherever I go. As colonies mature, older and less popular chunks of data filter into them as a result of queries and are placed in the local archive. Searches for obscure topics are increasingly likely to produce instant results as the archive grows. And that is about it. Looks like we have done everything that I have available. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's only one thing for that. Yep. All right. Thank you guys for watching the second Codex reading episode, and I shall see you guys in the future, in other games, other episodes. I'm recording this after I've completed the game, so I'm not sure exactly when it'll go up. It'll probably go up before the end or close to the end, or maybe like tied with the end. I don't know, something like that. So, yeah. I shall see you guys in future games and series. See you then.